You ever feel that electric charge right before a storm hits Detroit? That undeniable pulse racing through the heart of Lions Nation, like we're standing on the edge of something colossal, but the world around us hasn't caught the tremors. Yet, behind locked doors, where the hum of strategy and desperation blend, whispers grow louder quiet talks of a secret weapon, a phantom poised to break from the shadows and rewrite the storyline of this maddeningly hopeful team. And no, it's not the usual headline grabbers. It's not the veterans we all know. It's a name barely echoing through the city. A name like a coiled spring ready to strike. Giovanni Manu. Yeah, Giovanni Manu, the guy who last year seemed stuffed away in the shadows, tucked so deep in the practice squad or some mysterious off-season cocoon that his true potential was almost invisible. A ghost among the Lions. Almost impossible to believe a player with his freakish size, speed, and raw power just sat there, not causing a ripple, all while the rest of us questioned, doubted, and crossed fingers in the cold. But here's the thing about Manu, he's not just a project. He's a planet-sized presence that could finally give this offensive line the kind of edge that turns fragile promise into unbreakable armor. This is the kid who might be the heir apparent to Taylor Decker's throne. The future cornerstone at tackle we desperately need as the post-Decker era looms, and with that looming salary cap nightmare. Imagine what it would mean for Detroit to have their own built-in, homegrown savior protecting Jared Goff's blind side without breaking the bank. Think about it. Training camp year 2, pads on, full tilt, and all eyes suddenly trained on this guy who was barely a whisper last season. The city is ready to see if the hype matches the hype machine, the elusive promise of next year's star turning into reality. And it's not just about brute strength or size. It's the style, the technique, the potential versatility could. He'd be our version of Dan Skipper suddenly turning into a weapon, both in pass protection and a trick play threat. The kind of player who doesn't just hold the line but blows the roof off when the moment calls for it. Detroit has lived through pain since 1991, through heartbreaks that punch like a Detroit winter storm. We've watched late-round picks turn into legends and busts turn into dust. We've scrapped through rebuilds that drained our hope, like the Caldwell years when it felt like we were stuck in a never-ending fall. But the flame in this city never dies. It just flickers, waiting for the right kind of fuel. What if Giovanni Manu isn't just the future? What if he's the secret catalyst of the Lions' renaissance, the piece we didn't know was missing, but desperately needed? What if this developmental year, this deep underground training and transformation, isn't just a slow burn, but the ignition to a new era? What if, when the pads come on in training camp 2025, this kid surprises every doubter and turns the offensive line from a question mark into a fortress that empowers Goff and the offense to fly? Of course, there's tension. What if his growth stalls? What if the pressure of stepping into a star's shoes crushes his confidence, leaving us right back where we started? And what about the broader puzzle? Tate Ratledge's contract saga. Dragging on, the rookie's not yet signed. Can this young line hold together under the strain? Meanwhile, defense is glowing with promise. But offense, especially that O-line, has always been our heartbeat and our bane. If Manu truly blossoms, we're not just talking about depth or a rotation piece. We're talking life or death for the entire season's narrative. But if he falters, the whole line could crumble like a house of cards against the NFC North. Vicious defenses. This, Lions fans, is more than just speculation. It's a tantalizing, raw emotional thread woven into our shared dream and our shared pain. A secret weapon hiding in plain sight, ready to explode, ready to make this city roar, louder than it ever has. So if your heart is pounding for Detroit football like it does every offseason, if your blood races at the mere thought that this could be the turning point, then shout it out in these comments, because the Lions' fate might just hinge on this kid named Giovanni Manu. And as we stare down the barrel of training camp, ready to unload prayers and doubts alike, remember this if Manu shows up. If he takes that step forward, the dominoes start to fall, and Detroit won't just be back in the hunt. We'll be here fighting for everything, for glory, for redemption. The fuse is lit, the city's watching, and all that's left is to wait. For the explosion. Enough silence. Roar now or forever be forgotten. Do you feel that? That tremor deep inside Detroit's soul, like a nuclear pulse waiting to ignite the skyline. That's the unspoken truth growing beneath our feet, Giovanni. Man U's about to shatter the ceiling we've been too scared to believe in. Our history is riddled with heartbreaks, 1991's curse hanging like a shadow, Barry Sanders walking away with tears carving scars into our hearts, Calvin Johnson's forced retirement like a punch to the gut, Dan Orlovsky's safety feeling, like a lifeline we clung to while the NFC North blasted through like a cyclone, Caldwell's firing fracturing trust, seasons of hope evaporating into playoff collapses that haunted our dreams, yet all that pain. All those ghosts are morphing into a new fire, fueled by one kid's raw potential, a kid whose existence seemed almost invisible, tucked far beneath the spotlight, yet whose freakish combination of size, speed, and untapped power whispers of a revolution. When you talk about the Lions, that air of bleak inevitability lingers, yet tucked in the shadows. Manu's silent journey from unknown prospect to what could be our salvation is rewriting the story with every passing day. Think about it if he blossoms like a Detroit spring after the longest winter. This isn't just another draft steal. It's the birth of an era where we finally unequivocally have a homegrown savior protecting Goff's blindside, a player forged from the grit, the perseverance, and underdog grit that made Detroit famous before heartbreak became our soundtrack. I mean, imagine the locker room pressure mounting, veterans whispering about the next big thing, the coaching staff secretly plotting blindness-breaking schemes. What if Manu's the missing link? What if he's our secret weapon, our Daniel? Boone crossing the wilderness of NFL doubt and unleashing hell? And then there's the playing field, those moments when the game hangs in the balance. What if he's the kid who steps up, who transforms from a backup mystery into a game-changing force that smashes through double teams like they're paper? Who can turn a simple pass into a highlight reel? Who's not just an offensive line protector, but a dual-threat weapon that leaves defenses guessing, trembling in their cleats? That's the dream. What if Manu's growth accelerates faster than anyone predicted, powering the Lions' relentless 2025 resurgence, making this offense unstoppable, lion-hearted, ferocious? But here's the dark truth. What if the pressure crushes him? What if the burden of expectation, the weight of history, becomes too heavy to bear? And the questions. What if the other rookies aren't available yet? The contracts tangled in limbo? The entire offensive line fragile as glass? What if every bad snap, every missed block sends us spiraling back into the chaos of cynicism? The old doubts creeping in? That's the fine line this franchise walks. One moment of brilliance, one leap of faith, could flip the entire narrative or cascade into old wounds reopened. Because, boy, this city's been burned so many times, yet it refuses to stay down. We rise, we fight on. And now, standing at the cusp of training camp 2025, we stare at the potential of a kid named Giovanni Manu, a name that in a heartbeat could shift from a whisper into a thunderclap, reminding everyone in Detroit, in our blood, that we're not just survivors, we're fighters, pain and all, hungry for redemption, for glory. So tell me, what if this isn't just a hope? What if he's the spoil that will finally change everything and turn the Lions chapter into a saga of dominance, rewriting a cursed story into a legend, where Manu's ascent isn't just a story of growth, but the defining moment that decides whether Detroit rises or finally falls silent forever. Because the question now echoes louder than the roar of the river. Will this kid finally be the one to shatter the ceiling? Or will the weight of history crush his dreams before they even begin?